Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed we do. First, we are asking the question, is the AI bubble popping? I guess, is there an AI bubble? And is it popping? I think the bubble part is pretty definitive.
Yes, but the popping is the question.
Is the question.
But there are some very interesting signs. It says a lot about our...
We're going to dig into that. Very important topic. We are also going to take a look at, BB sat down with the gentleman of trigonometry. So producer Griffin pulled a couple clips for us to react to. This all comes as the invasion of Gaza City has begun. Tim Dillon is sounding off on the DC National Guard situation. Had some protests here in the city yesterday against Stephen Miller and JD Vance, so we'll take a look at that. We also have Megyn Kelly sitting down with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Some interesting comments and revelations there. Saagar has an update for us on that Israeli alleged pedophile who was able to fly out of the country, digging into exactly how that unfolded and what is going to happen next. He also has some thoughts about this new war on property taxes coming from Republicans.
I hope you'll join me because
I will join you, but I just want to give credit.
Yeah,
this is your thing.
If I'd had the time to do the monologue, I would have. But I have been just going down. I've had the baby in one arm and property tax ChatGPT in the other, and I have just been. I'm getting more radicalized by the day. Boomers, I'm already going to warn you. If you watch this segment, it's going to piss you off. I don't care. I'm doing this for the young.
In what direction? I'm curious. How would you describe your radicalization?
Oh, I'm much more in favor of the young. Like, I mean, we are living in a country which has socialism for the old and rugged individualism for the young. So if we're going to have anything, it should be flipped. I think most people would
I don't even think it's rugged individualism for the young. It's like the deck is stacked.
No, yeah, I agree. No, I mean, it's not even like rugged individualism now at this point. It's actually the opposite, where the boomers are using their oppressive political power, tax status, and wealth to literally oppress the lower classes to force us to pay for their dialysis. So I just can't get over it. Like, the more numbers that I have been crunching and all of this, I'm in shock. I'm naive that I did not look into this earlier, and it's all coming to head with Florida, Texas, and an increasingly number of red states, which are already zero tax states, wanting to do away with property tax.
running on getting rid of the property tax?
He is, and this is entirely driven by seniors. So anyway, I'll go off on it.
Yes, and I'm going to take a look at the rise of a new eugenics movement coming out of Silicon Valley, but in being represented in various sectors of society. There was a wild interview with this lady, with Ross Douthat, who she is a founder of a company where you can do this like embryo selection, and very dystopian interview and very dystopian future and present possibilities, I would say, going on there. So I'll dig into all of that. Before we do, though, thank you so much for those of you who have been supporting the show, enabling the great reporting that Saagar has been doing this week, enabling the expansion into the full week Friday show, as well as, you guys know, the premium subscribers were the first ones in the world to get to see the official arrest notes of that alleged Israeli pedophile. So you do get some benefits for signing up.
I do really like, it means a lot for them to support our journalism, because it's literally that thing of scratching an itch and just putting in the work. I mean, it took a lot of work actually to get those documents. It's like a lot. It was a lot of time on the phone, and I've familiarized myself with Las Vegas. By the way, to our Las Vegas audience, I feel sorry for you guys. You live in a mafia state. Like, I'm really beginning to learn. And when I break down this story, it's nuts. Like who the lawyer is, the connections to Israel, the Adelson Mafia who run the state, who own the largest newspaper. I mean, I am getting a radio silence from the Las Vegas, Nevada political establishment. And like, the word has come down. But the good news is that people are pissed off. The rank and file in Henderson City, in the police department, amongst the FBI and others. So I'm hoping that there'll be some more exclusive reporting soon.
Yeah.
Anyway,
indeed.
So thank you.
BreakingPoints.com if you can sign up and help us out. Saagar, what are we looking at with AI?
We're looking at the AI bubble and potential signs of popping. I mean, this is one of those where everybody's predicted it for quite some time, and everyone's wondering if this is going to be like 2000 all over again. And there's some signs that happened just yesterday. Let's go and put this up there on the screen. The U.S. tech stocks slipped as investors, quote, rotate towards defensive sectors. So what they talk about specifically is that a decline in U.S. stocks extended into Wednesday, quote, as concerns about the durability of the rally in artificial intelligence shares prompted a shift into defensive sectors. So specifically, the tech-heavy NASDAQ was down some 0.7%, while the blue chip S&P just lost by 0.2. So what they say is that the big tech groups specifically are coming under selling pressure, falling 1 or 2%. Palantir stocks actually down some 20% just in the last couple of days. There's a big question exactly as to why. A lot of it has to do with capital expenditure. And what I think we've tried to highlight here on the show previously is that a significant part of the reason that US GDP remains okay at the top line figure is all because of AI data spending. And that's really dangerous because it's not broad-based over the economy. It doesn't mean that people are feeling confident about investing in America. What it also means is that Mark Zuckerberg could quite literally engineer an entire recession if he just paused the current rate of AI data spending. And we're already seeing some indications that that could happen. Similarly, there are increasing numbers of studies about the promise of AI. This is what people need to always remember with the stock market. It's always looking at future value. It's about the promise of said technology. So the expectation of NVIDIA value of AI is not just their current use, but about what it may unlock for the future. So let's put this passage up very importantly, because what they say is that some traders on Wall Street are pinning some of the decline on a new report, which actually released on Monday by MIT, which said that, quote, 95% of organizations are getting zero return from their investments in generative AI, the technology that obviously sent the stocks to the moon. It says the story is spooking people. Just 5% of integrated AI pilots are extracting millions of dollars in value, while the vast majority remain stuck with no measurable profit and loss impact. So this is about a question of productivity. It's about a question of what this will actually unlock for the future. I mean, I've talked here previously about how a lot of the pie in the sky promises may ultimately just be marketing, and most of it is just about eliminating like very entry level scut work. For me personally, like I use ChatGPT and AI every day. I use it for math, like to compute various, like I was talking about property taxes, to be able to do like a large sum math, which is actually quite good at, and for research. But all that's really doing is saving me some time while conducting research. And as you also know with ChatGPT, you actually have to go in and check most of the figures. So I mean, look, it's great. I mean, it definitely saves me time and is convenient, but is that unlocking like billions of dollars in potential here for breaking points? Like at this point, we've been living in this environment for 3 years. Yeah, it's nice. You know, oh, you can do a little bit more of a thumbnail. I can crunch some data. Every once in a while, I'll upload the analytics. I'll be like, oh, tell me about some standout things. But actually, YouTube analytics are pretty good at that. They've been pretty good at that for years. You know, I haven't seen a lot of the promises yet. And we literally run a business, and so it's helpful. And if anything, we may want to run a business which is supposed to be like most impacted for creative endeavors, for, you know, a lean startup kind of machine. So then I think about it at the enterprise level, and they're not seeing a lot of it either. Like it's making things a little bit easier, but that's not the same thing as unlocking trillions of dollars in value.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could both be the case that AI, in the same way that the internet bubble, the .com bubble, ended up, there were a lot of companies that were not real and that didn't have any sort of real revenue model and that ultimately went bust. But also that the technology ends up being quite disruptive and quite, transformational. I think those things could both be the case. That's where I suspect we're going. But yeah, I mean, as of right now, it's like replacing entry-level workers, which is not great. Replacing Google, which, is not really like changing the game. It's changing a lot of sort of internet dynamics and internet revenue models, but is not sort of transformational completely. Cheating on tests and porn, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, it's very reminiscent of the internet. And I'm sure the startups that will succeed immediately in the near term are the ones that are like most plugged into the porn economy, is probably where things are going to be going. I also think it's very likely, when you look at those stats of 95% of these AI companies don't have a revenue model. It reminds very much of the media boom where you had all of these like startup media companies that were supposed to be appealing to millennials that would get huge traffic, or at least claim to get huge traffic. And there was an assumption that they'd be able to figure out how to fully monetize that, and often that did not come to fruition. I think probably because we are in an era of mass industry consolidation where monopolies sort of rule the economy, economy. We're probably going to end up with 1 or 2 or 3, just a handful of winners in the AI economy.
And they plan on that. They even say that openly.
Well,
it's kind of an arms race.
That's exactly right. It's an arms race. You know, we think nationally of the arms race between the US and China, but each of these companies individually are in an arms race. That's why they're spending so much and putting so much on the line right now to try to get the edge in this field, because they realize it's going to be somewhat akin to a winner-take-all type of technology, where it's very likely people sort of consolidate against around one leader that has the technological edge, or proves itself to be the most useful, or just becomes the most sort of like, you know, culturally taken up for whatever reason. And so that's why they're all pushing so many chips on the table in this direction right now. And that means that you will have, you know, some company or some few companies out there who are big winners, and you know, you'll probably end up with the world's first trillionaires as a result of this technology. That doesn't mean that you're going to have a broad-based flourishing ecosystem. And let's keep in mind, of course, that the ultimate promise of this technology is to completely upend the labor market and replace a lot of human beings. So, you know, it's one thing to talk about the stock market. You also have to keep your eye on what this means for the real economy over the long term. Now, one thing that's different from the dot-com boom is you do have a lot of actual building.
Yeah, that like actual money.
Right, of building out these data centers. Now, that's sort of like a one-time expenditure. You build out these data centers. It's not like those are ongoing construction projects. It's not like you need that many people at the data center to maintain it. But there are, like, you know, real world construction projects, lots of them going on across the country to fuel this boom.
Yeah, I forget the book I read about .com and early Silicon Valley, but one of the better things that happened as a result of .com is it financed a lot of fiber optic cables that were laid all across the country, which was the backbone for not high speed, but higher speed internet and the move away from dial-up. It ended up being actually quite important for the eventual adoption of like the PC in the home and email and all that. So there was some, you know, upside to the CapEx spending that was financed by a lot of that insanity. So it could be something like that. But, you know, if you go back and you compare the rhetoric of the information superhighway that Microsoft and all those other people were talking about, none of it even came close to coming to pass. This is the point. We go to the next part up on the screen about the data centers, because this is really important. Just, you know, they point exactly what I was saying. They say, quote, partying like it's 1995. United States AI relative private fixed investment as a percent of GDP is just crazy high. The vast short run impact, they say, on GDP economic growth. 1/6 of growth over the entire past year is just data spend. And 50% of all growth in the US economy over the last 6 months. So far, it is much smaller than the 1990s dot-com build out, but it remains still very important for us to keep an eye on, and just shows the impact of how, again, even minute changes in the way that these companies do business, it could send everything belly up. This will impact, this is already impacting interest rates, the overall stock market, the US, you know, I mean, think about borrowing costs. Everything is now downstream of how these like 4 or 5 different companies spend their money. Let's put the next one, please, up on the screen. This is very interesting, and a lot of people were looking at this. This is about Meta is now planning a, quote, 4th restructuring of its AI efforts in 6 months, just to show you how capricious some of this stuff can be. And what they say is that they're going to divide their new AI unit into 4 different groups. The reason why people are paying a lot of attention to that is because, first of all, you can change restructuring your AI effort in 6 months. So that's what, every 2 months or whatever, like you're changing your business plan, but it's moving so rapidly and in such a way that, again, changes to the way that they spend money, which is billions of dollars, would have immediate impact on the entire US GDP and US economy. There's also some very interesting signs showing up about the impact of these data centers. One of these is electricity prices. Let's put this up there on the screen. This is a flag that somebody sent to me recently, which I was not aware of, and is shocking. So you can see electricity price from 2020 is up 30, this is from the Federal Reserve Bank, is up 38% in the last 5 years. It was basically stable from 2015 to 2020. Now, there's a lot of different reasons why. You could see the huge jump from 2022, that's the Ukraine war, that's natural gas. There's also been the impact on gas prices, gasoline, changes to the overall energy markets, but even from 2022, you can see we've almost gone up as much from 2020 to 2022 as we did from 2022 to today. And especially look at that massive bump just in the last 6 months of the increase in the overall average price of electricity. Some of this is going to be accounted in data center. And so increasingly, there's going to be a big fight in Washington, and I think at state and local level, of people being like, hold on a second. You know, I'm not, yeah, you can come here and that's great. And yeah, you're going to employ 500 people, but all of a sudden my electricity bill goes sky high. Also, this of course impacts the poorest residents the hardest. It's the fixed costs like gasoline, electricity prices, home, just generally like maintaining, even if you're a renter or any of that, I mean, 38% to your bottom line for a fixed cost, that's extraordinary if you think about it. Massively outpaces even inflation. So you put those two things together and you could see like a future organic pushback against a lot of this new data center economy, especially for my friends in my home state in Texas. I mean, you literally just have your own power grid and you've got data centers popping up all over the state. You have more of a deregulated energy market already, which is more, you know, vulnerable to price fluctuation, I guess, as I understand it. And you could have a disaster, right, in terms of the overall aggregate price. It's not something that's going to be fixed overnight, as we've all found out.
Yeah, no, I mean, these data centers are unbelievably energy and water hungry, unbelievably so. And you also have, you know, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, they, you know, attacked a bunch of different energy sources. So it's not like we're really building out either the infrastructure or the sourcing that we need to be able to fuel this boom. And the approach of American tech companies in particular has just been to build out, build out, build out, build out. That's part of the arms race here that's going on. You can listen to Sam Altman talking to Theo Vaughn about how these data centers are going to just like populate the entire earth and make the whole thing look like, you know, it's a computer chip board. So that's the direction we're heading in. And there's also real like quality of life issues too. If one of these is located in your community, they're very noisy, they're very dirty, they're very noisy. And so there have been a lot of complaints about, you know, the communities where these have been located as well. So, you know, look, on the one hand, you get the construction jobs, right, out of the gates. So I'm sure, you know, people who work in that industry very much appreciate that work. But it comes with all sorts of drawbacks, and you're really sort of sucking the resources out of the rest of society for an industry that, again, ultimately aims to put you out of work, put most workers around the world out of a job, and consolidate even more wealth and power in their own hands. You know, in terms of where we are economically, whether it's a bubble, I think it's pretty undeniable when you look at stats like, 95% of these companies don't even make any money. That seems like a pretty clear indication that we are in some sort of a bubble. So not only do we have those longer term concerns about what this technology is going to do to society, and very little grappling with that in terms of the economic cost and the environmental cost, but you also have a potential short-term economic collapse on the table because of the bubble that's been inflated around the promise of this technology.
Yeah, and then finally, we just wanted to put this in here about these meta chatbots, if anybody's not aware. Crazy story. Let's put it up here on the screen. You could see here, like, you could chat with AI to something called Rich But Strict Parents. This follows, there's actually an open investigation now in the US Senate over a leaked document which, quote, showed the tech giants artificial intelligence was permitted to have sensual and romantic chats with children. An internal document said that Meta has acknowledged it. They said that it was, quote, erroneous and inconsistent with our policies and have since been removed. But I mean, these things exist in your kid's Instagram app or, you know, anywhere else where these chat bots, which kids can just engage with. I don't know. I mean, that's as dystopian as it gets.
I think, I'm pretty sure it was Wall Street Journal that did most of the reporting on this, and I read through it.
Right.
It was pretty shocking.
It's creepy.
And you know what else, Saagar? They licensed the voices of like John Cena and Kristen Bell, who plays Anna in Frozen. And one of the stipulations was, you know, you can't use my voice for like sexting, basically, you know, because they have a brand that they want to maintain and they don't want to be used for that. There were no prohibitions. And not only that, users were able to program chatbots, because a lot of these chatbots are actually like user created. They can create their own. Users were able to create their own chatbots to have like Kristen Bell's voice as Anna, but in like sexual role play. Yeah. I mean, why? So I don't see how that's not a lawsuit for them, because they paid millions of dollars to acquire this, these voice capabilities from these famous actors, and then that's going on. You have you have chatbots that are like, one that the Wall Street Journal tested was called like submissive schoolgirl, where it's, the chat bot is posing as like a middle school girl. And you can imagine the type of role play that this bot is happy to engage in. And then you also had, the other direction where teens and children, I mean, teens are children, could engage in, whatever with any of these chatbots. And apparently what had happened is internally, Meta's safety team had all of this like prohibited. And then at some expo, Zuckerberg was unhappy with the like level of risk taking. And so he specifically, this is according to their reporting, intervened. It was like, you need to take off the brakes.
That's wild.
And let all of this fly. And there were a lot of internal concerns. I suspect some of these leaks probably came from internally, people being like, what the fuck is going on here? And so, yeah, it really was Zuckerberg. And now I think that they've, tried to rein some things in. But when I saw the headline, I thought it would be sort of like borderline.
No, it's not overblown.
It's not borderline.
It's real. Yeah.
It's really, really overt. And so, I just think about too, obviously I'm a mom, I got 3 kids. One of them is a preteen, one of them is 17 years old. I've got a little girl who's 8, and kids also they have a harder time distinguishing between like, this is a real person and this is, this is a YouTuber who I'm not going to have a relationship, or this is some sort of tech, or this is like a cartoon character. And so also just thinking about what the formation of these relationships are going to mean for kids, even putting aside the sexual part, like what that's going to do to kids. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think anyone's thinking it through. We're just using them as like guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Let's just turn it loose and see what happens.
It's a good point you make about children. I mean, if you think about when kids go to Disney, not that my kid will go to Disney. I have made the blood oath. She'll probably make me break it, but at least for now, that's the blood oath. And they think the characters are real. They meet Goofy and they're like, oh my God, it's Goofy. Well, now imagine if you could chat with Goofy. Sounds cute. Until it's not cute, right? Yeah. And so just take that to its logical conclusion, and that's already where we are. Man, I just saw some good news, though. Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, number 73 weeks on the list at #1 for a New York Times bestseller. So a lot of parents are still, they're waking up and they're fighting back. So please, if you can.
We are outmatched.
If you're a parent out there, read the book.
We are outmatched.
You definitely are. But read the book. It will give you some good guidelines. If every public policy, every public school should be required reading. His phone-free school idea is so important. And if you're involved in your local politics at all, you got to push the school district to go for it. It's vital to make sure.
And just parents, you got to be on top of what your kids are consuming and watching and doing.
My kid is 3 months old.
It's not easy.
I put the damn TV on. It's like a magnet for the eye. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I guess I grew up in the 90s. It was probably the same way, but it shows you the power of the screen on a developing brain for someone who's his only word is "ga," and you're like, wow, like that just shows what you're really up against. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.